Hi everyone. Now we are going to learn about properties of enzymes. One of the part of these enzymes is properties of enzymes. First of all, let's see what are enzymes and why they are also called as biocatalysts. So as enzymes are going to be proteins, made up of proteins, and they are biological origin, which tremendously increase the rate of biochemical reactions. At normal cellular level conditions is going to be termed as enzymes. So enzymes are made up of proteins and they are biological origin, and they're helpful in increasing the rate of biochemical reactions at a normal cellular level conditions is being termed as enzyme, or simply we can call it as it's a protein, as I told you. And a biocatalyst, why we are calling it as a biocatalyst, it increases the rate of reaction, and as it is a biological origin, it is going to be called as biocatalyst and employed by a cell to accelerate the metabolic reaction. So what do you mean by accelerate? Increasing the rate of biochemical reactions. So as they are increasing the rate of biochemical reactions and present in the biological origin, obviously we call them as biocatalysts. And not only that, these enzymes are also regulating these biochemical reactions. So we can call them as bioregulators too. And as they are made up of enzymes and acting as a regulator one, we can also call them as proteinaceous bioregulators. And where they are present, obviously they are occur in the cell. So this is all about the introduction to the enzymes. So enzymes are the proteins of biological origin which tremendously increase the rate of reactions at a normal cellular level conditions is being termed as enzyme or enzymes. Okay, so let's move to the properties of enzymes, which is very important in the exam point of view. Okay, let's see. So all enzymes are made up of proteins, that we know, but all proteins are not enzymes. Remember, all enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzymes. Okay, as all enzymes are proteins, besides having a small amount of organic group, that means these enzymes may have a small organic group called as coenzyme and an inorganic group called as prosthetic group. We'll learn about this coenzyme and prosthetic group in another part, and these are going to exhibit several properties which are specific to enzymes. Okay, so each enzymes may be of different combinations or other just simply the enzymes, they are going to have several properties which are going to be specific only to the enzymes, not with the other biomolecules. So enzymes, proteins are considered as one of the biomolecule, and enzymes are also coming in that category only. So let's see some of the properties that we are going to discuss in detail. So here are 8 types of properties. The first one is the catalytic action, then amphoteric nature, then proteinaceous nature, then colloidal nature, reversibility of action, sensitivity to pH, then sensitivity to temperature, and finally specificity. So these are the few properties of enzymes that we are going to discuss in detail, and these are very important. And then coming to the first type of property, that is catalytic action. So what is a catalytic action? So the name itself is ending. A catalyst is going to fasten up the rate of reaction or accelerate the rate of reaction. As enzymes are present in the biological systems or biological cell, we are going to consider them as biocatalysts. So obviously they will accelerate the rate of reaction, they regulate the metabolic reactions. This is all we have learned in the introduction. Then the small amount of enzymes produce large amount of product. So if the substrates are going to be converted into the product, the little amount of enzymes are enough to convert them into the large amount of product. And the catalytic power of any enzyme is going to be measured in terms of turnover number. What is this turnover number? The number of substrate molecules or substrates converted into products per unit time is called as turnover number. Okay, then coming to the second type of property, that is amphoteric nature. Enzymes are capable of ionizing either as an acid or as a base. So depending upon the acidity of the external solution. What does this means? Enzymes are going to be capable of either ionizing as an acid or base depending upon the acidity of the external solution. We all know that enzymes are proteins, and the proteins can occur in the form of zwitterions. So you can go through about the proteins in another part that we have already discussed. Okay, uh, and as it is having the capacity of both what we call it as donating the hydrogen ions as well as accepting the hydrogen ions, so it can act as an acid or a base, so depending upon the acidity of the external solutions. So here one thing we have to remember that all enzymes are made up of proteins but except an enzyme called as ribozymes. Okay, so next moving to the next one, proteinaceous nature. The third property is proteinaceous nature. As I already told you, enzymes are basically proteins in their nature. All enzymes are proteins except the ribosomes. So as the proteins are having primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary structures, so in the same manner, these enzymes are also going to possess the primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary, quaternary of proteins for their catalytic activities. Suppose if the enzyme is broken down into concerned amino acids, that means the protein is going to be hydrolyzed into amino acids. So then we can know that its catalytic activity also get destroyed. That means if you are going to break the enzyme, it is going to be converted into amino acids where the enzyme catalytic activity also get destroyed. So this is all about the proteinaceous nature or enzymes or proteins. Then moving to the next property is colloidal nature. All enzymes either wholly, that means completely, or partly made up of proteins, and they're colloidal in nature. This colloidal nature is going to be applied to the proteins also. I told you what is a colloidal substance. Suppose if you are mixing anything in the water, either it's completely get dissolved or gets precipitated, isn't it? So if that is not occurring, either completely dissolved or completely settling down as a precipitate, and just the particles are being suspended in the solvent, then we call that solution as a colloidal solution. As proteins are colloidal in nature, obviously the enzymes are also going to be colloidal in nature. Why? Because of their large size, they diffuse easily and hence form the colloidal like substances with the water. And then next property is reversibility of action. Enzymes carry both forward and backward reactions. Enzymes carry both forward and backward? Yes. Some of the enzymes, not all enzymes, some of the enzymes can have the reversible reactions. So that means take an enzyme called as lipase. The lipase on hydrolysis is going to cleave the lipids into fatty acids and glycerol, and these fatty acids and glycerol in the form of removal of the water gives rise to lipids. So the same enzyme can form the fatty acids and the glycerol, or these together can form the lipids. So both the forward and backward reactions are occurring. Okay, so enzymes are having the reversibility of action. Then moving to the next property, sensitivity to pH. So each enzyme acts best at a particular pH, and that is known as a optimum pH. So anything, if it is going to act at best at a particular pH, that we are going to call it as optimum pH. Just any slight increase or decrease in the concentration of the pH leads to the slowdown or inhibit the enzyme activity. Just if you are going to rise above its optimum pH or decrease the optimum pH, obviously the enzyme is going to slow down or inhibit the enzyme activity. For example, some enzymes such as phosphorylase are active at alkaline pH. Okay, but and if it is going to be increasing the acidic pH, so obviously it is going to lose its or inhibit the enzyme activity. Okay, and then coming to the next property is sensitivity to temperature. So any enzyme like the pH is going to have the optimum temperature at which it is going to have the maximum catalytic activity. So majority of the enzymes, as they are biocatalysts, majority of the enzymes are going to have the optimum temperature between 30 to 40 degrees centigrade, and its activity is going to be maximum at this temperature. Suppose if the temperature is high, what happens? The enzymes will be denatured and becomes non-functional, and its properties will not even restore. For example, if you are going to put some seeds in the flame directly, can you regain it? No. So that's how the proteins are getting denatured, where you cannot get it reback or restore its properties. But coming to the low temperature, that means if you are going to keep in the refrigerator, so you can bring it to the normal temperature and you can have the normal normal back of its properties. The enzymes will be inactivated but do not become denatured. That's the difference between the high temperature and the low temperature. The rate of enzyme action increases with the rise of temperature. So you have kept in the for example deep freezer, and then you have removed it and bring it to the normal temperature, so obviously it is going to have the normal properties. So that's how the sensitivity to temperature is going to affect the enzyme activity. Then coming to the specificity. So what is the specificity means? Enzymes are highly specific in nature. That means each enzyme is having its own specificity, may act on a particular substrate. So as I told you, lipase is going to act only on the lipids, protease is going to act only on the proteins. Okay, like that we are going to sucrase is going to act only on the sucrose substance. So like this we are going to have a highly specific nature for these enzymes on a particular substrate. And depending upon the specificity, the enzyme specificity can be divided into 5 types. What are those 5 types? Absolute specificity, and then group specificity, then optical specificity, geometrical specificity, and the last one is a reaction specificity. So let's see what are these specificities in detail now. Now coming to the first one is absolute specificity. Absolute means it is going to be of absolute one which is specific to that concerned substrate only. That is going to be the absolute. Some enzymes act only on one substrate. They are not going to act on any other. Then we are going to have this absolute specificity. For example, urease act only on urea. It is not going to act any on others. So example here is a urea. So urease is going to act on this urea compound and giving rise to carbon dioxide and ammonia. So it is an irreversible reaction. Okay, where you don't have the both arrows, so obviously it is a irreversible reaction. So here the urease is going to have the absolute specificity. Then coming to the second one, group specificity. That means a group of substance or a group of enzymes are going to be acted by the group of enzymes is going to be called as group specificity. For example, LAD, that is lactic acid dehydrogenase, is a group of enzymes. So these can act either on the lactic acid substance or on the pyruvic acid substance. The same enzyme is going to have the effect on lactic acid group as well as the pyruvic acid group. So that's how this is going to be called as group specificity. So these enzymes catalyze reactions which are structurally related groups. So here P of compounds is going to be called as group specificity. So absolute specificity, group specificity, then coming to the optical specificity. So optical means the obviously comes the concept of isomers, L isomers, D isomers, that is right side, left side. Okay, so some enzymes can catalyze only one of the isomers and act only on one of the two isomers. That is, either they can act on the L isomer or the D alanine. The structural formula, everything is the same, but because of these isomers, they are going to act only on one isomer. So that type of property is being called as optical specificity. Example is alanine racemase. So this alanine racemase is going to act on the L-alanine rather than the D-alanine. So that's how this is going to show the optical specificity. Which one is showing? Alanine racemase is showing the optical specificity property. Then coming to the geometrical specificity, it exhibits towards cis isomer or trans isomer. This is optical, and here it is geometrical or geometrical. So here, if you see the fumaric acid and the malic acid, both are going to have structurally the same, just they are cis and trans forms, isn't it? If fumaric acid is going to have the H on the right side, that becomes the malic acid, which is going to be the cis form. So here also, these enzymes are going to exhibit the specificity toward either the cis form or the trans form. So here I have shown you an example of fumarase. This fumarase enzyme adds water to the trans isomer fumaric acid, but does not react with the cis form, that is a malic acid. So that's how this fumarase is showing the geometrical specificity, though they are having the same structural formula. Okay, then coming to the reaction specificity. So obviously the reaction means one enzyme catalyzes only one reaction. So here you can take, and another one like lipase enzyme can be taken as an example, protease enzyme can be taken as an example. And when enzyme does not interfere in the working of another enzyme, this is also very important. That means the urease is not going to interfere in the pyruvic acid conversion to lactic acid, or this lactic acid dehydrogenase is not involved in the conversion of urea to carbon dioxide and ammonia. So that's how they are not going to interfere in the working of another enzyme and catalyzes only one of the reactions. Okay, so that's how we have finished off the specificity, which are going to have the 5 types. So we had gone through the 8 types of the properties of enzymes. So let's have a quick review. One is the catalytic action, that all enzymes are going to have the catalytic nature. Then amphoteric nature, that means they're going to act, either donate the acid, that is protons, or the accepting the protons, so having both of acidic nature and basic nature, depending upon the acidity of the whatever the solution is. Then proteinaceous nature, as we discussed that enzymes are proteins, so obviously they will be in the proteinaceous nature. Then colloidal nature, as enzymes are made up of proteins, and the proteins contains the colloidal nature, and we have discussed what is the colloidal nature. So these enzymes are also going to exhibit this colloidal nature. Reversibility of action, some enzymes are involved in the reversible action. The example that we have discussed is the lipase enzyme, which will convert the lipids into fatty acids and glycerol, and again the same enzyme can be form the lipid source. Then sensitivity to pH, many of the enzymes are going to have certain optimum pH where they are going to show their maximum activity. Increase in the pH or decrease in the pH will cease or slow down the activity of the enzyme or inhibit the enzyme activity. Then sensitivity to temperature, I told you that optimum temperature is going to be range for 30 to 40 degrees for majority of the enzymes. Okay, and beyond the at high temperatures, the enzymes are going to get denature of its properties, and at low temperatures they arrest the activity, but when it brought to the normal temperatures, they retain its properties. And specificity, we have discussed the 5 types of specificity, that is going to be of first one absolute, then group, then optical, then geometrical, and then reaction. So that's how we have finished the properties of enzymes. Okay, thank you.